botch, an embarrassing mistake, make a mess of, destroy or ruin, bribe, payment made to a person in a position of trust to corrupt his judgment, make illegal payments to in exchange for favors or influence, carve, form by carving, engrave or cut by chipping away at a surface, cut to pieces, climb, the weather in some location averaged over some long period of time, covet, to yearn, to have or indulge in inordinate desire, especially for another's possession, to long for inordinately or unlawfully, to hanker after something forbidden, to wish for with eagerness, to desire possession of, often enviously, elope, to run away from home with a paramour, to run away secretly for the purpose of getting married with one's intended spouse, to marry in a quick or private fashion, especially without a public period of engagement. Feign, make believe with the intent to deceive, make a pretense of. Fiery, characterized by intense emotion, hot or inflamed. Filch, make off with belongings of others. Flung, throw with force or recklessness. Move in an abrupt or headlong manner. Indulge oneself. Throw or cast away. Fussy, annoyed and irritable. Overcrowded or cluttered with detail. Exacting especially about details. Gavel, a small mallet used by a presiding officer or a judge. Ghoul, someone who takes bodies from graves and sells them for anatomical dissection. An evil spirit or ghost. Grunt, the short, low, gruff noise of the kind made by hogs. An unskilled or low-ranking soldier or other worker. Medium-sized tropical marine food fishes that utter grunting sounds when caught. Issue a grunting, low, animal-like noise. Hefty, large, heavy, and powerful. Of considerable weight and size. Large in amount or extent or degree. Hoist, lifting device for raising heavy or cumbersome objects. Raise or haul up with, or as if with mechanical help. Move from one place to another by lifting. Incur, make oneself subject to, bring upon oneself, become liable to. Become subject to something unwelcome or unpleasant, as a result of one's own behavior or actions. Paean, a formal expression of praise. A thing that expresses enthusiastic praise. A song of praise or triumph. Pious, having or showing or expressing reverence for a deity. Prism, a polyhedron with parallel ends of the same size and shape, the other faces being parallelogram-shaped sides. A crystal in which the faces are parallel to the vertical axis. A transparent block in the shape of a prism, typically with triangular ends, used to split or reflect light. Privy, private, exclusive, not public, one's own, secret, hidden, concealed. With knowledge of, party to, let in on. A partaker, one having an interest in an action, contract, etc., to which he is not himself a party. Shady, quiet, dark, or concealed. Not as expected. Of questionable honesty or legality. Filled with shade. Sneer, a facial expression of contempt or scorn, the upper lip curls. A contemptuous or scornful remark. Expressed through a scornful smile. Smile contemptuously. Stale, urinate, of cattle and horses. Lacking freshness, palatability, or showing deterioration from age. Lacking originality or spontaneity, no longer new. Vogue. The popular taste at a given time. A current state of general acceptance and use. Waif. A waif, a castaway. A woman put out of the protection of the law, an outlawed woman. To stray, wander. To put aside, avoid. Apathy. An absence of emotion or enthusiasm. The trait of lacking enthusiasm for, or interest in things generally. Ashram. A hermitage, monastic community, or other place of religious retreat, especially in South Asia. Bleary. Tired to the point of exhaustion. Indistinct or hazy in outline. Cohere. Come or be in close contact with, stick or hold together and resist separation. Cause to form a united, orderly, and aesthetically consistent whole. Have internal elements or parts logically connected, so that aesthetic consistency results. Deface. Mar or spoil the appearance of. To alter a coat of arms or a flag, by adding an element to it. To damage or vandalize something, especially a surface, in a visible or conspicuous manner. To void or devalue, to nullify or degrade the face value of. Delude. Be false to, be dishonest with. To deceive into believing something which is false, to lead into error, to dupe. To frustrate or disappoint. Devout. Having or showing deep religious feeling or commitment. Totally committed to a cause or belief. Diddle. Deprive of by deceit. Manipulate manually or in one's mind or imagination. Divert. To turn aside, to digress. To distract. To entertain or amuse by diverting the attention. To turn aside from a course. Fatten. Make fat or plump. Feisty. Showing courage. Quick to take offense. Fervor. Feelings of great warmth and intensity. The state of being emotionally aroused and worked up. Frieze. An architectural ornament consisting of a horizontal sculptured band between the architrave and the cornice. A heavy woolen fabric with a long nap. Gabble. Confused or unintelligible speech. To talk fast, idly, foolishly, or without meaning. To utter inarticulate sounds with rapidity. Graven. Something fashioned by man, or something man-made, anything made by man's hands. Something that is not alive, but made dead, from the grave. Carved, engraved. To make graven or engraved. Heckle. A comb for separating flax fibers. Comb with a heckle. Challenge aggressively. To insult, tease, make fun of or badger, especially during a comedy performance. Hectic. Marked by intense agitation or emotion. Hither. On this side, the nearer. To this place, to here. Over here. Imbibe. To take in, absorb. To steep, to cause to absorb liquid. To drink used frequently of alcoholic beverages. Jailer. Someone who guards prisoners. One who enforces confinement in a jail or prison. Luster. A quality that outshines the usual. The visual property of something that shines with reflected light. As surface coating for ceramics or porcelain. martyr. One who suffers, for the sake of principle. One who voluntarily suffers death as the penalty for refusing to renounce their religion. Kill as a martyr. Torture and torment like a martyr. Meager. Deficient in amount or quality or extent. Menial. Not requiring much skill and lacking prestige. A person with a menial job. Milieu. A person's social environment. Muddle. A confused multitude of things. Informal terms for a difficult situation. Make into a puddle. Mix up or confuse. Mumble. A soft indistinct utterance. Talk indistinctly, usually in a low voice. Grind with the gums, chew without teeth, and with great difficulty. Mutiny. An organized rebellion against a legally constituted authority, especially by seamen against their officers. Violent commotion, tumult, strife. To commit mutiny. Nobler. Impressive in appearance. Of or belonging to or constituting the hereditary aristocracy, especially as derived from feudal times. Having or showing or indicative of high or elevated character. Inert especially toward oxygen. Offer. To buy for oneself. To open oneself up to someone. To treat oneself. To give as a gift. Pagoda. An Asian temple, usually a pyramidal tower with an upward curving roof. Pallid. Pale, typically because of poor health. Feeble or insipid. Phooey. Hooey, nonsense. Pigsty. A pen for swine. A dirty or very untidy place. An enclosure where pigs are kept. Pulpit. A platform raised above the surrounding level to give prominence to the person on it. Rafter. A flock of turkeys. A raftsman. One of a series of slope beams that extend from the ridge or hip to the downslope perimeter or eave, designed to support the roof deck and its associated loads. To plow so, as to turn the grass side of each furrow upon an unplowed ridge, to ridge. Rankle. Gnaw into, make resentful or angry. Ratify. Approve and express assent, responsibility, or obligation. Relent. Give in, as to influence or pressure. To become less severe or intense, to become less hard, harsh, or cruel, to soften in temper. To slacken, to abate. To lessen, make less severe or intense. Remand. The act of an appellate court sending a matter back to a lower court for review or disposal. The act of sending an accused person back into custody whilst awaiting trial. To send back. To send a case back to a lower court for further consideration. Revoir. To re-examine. To see again. Sadist. Someone who obtains pleasure from inflicting pain on others. One who derives pleasure through cruelty or pain to others. Scurvy. Contemptible, despicable, low, disgustingly mean. Covered or affected with scurf or scabs, scabby, scurfy, specifically, diseased with the scurvy. A disease caused by insufficient intake of vitamin C, leading to the formation of livid spots on the skin, spongy gums, loosening of the teeth and bleeding into the skin, and from almost all mucous membranes. Secede. Withdraw from an organization or communion. Syntax. A highly malleable general-purpose plastic explosive. Shrank. Wither, as with a loss of moisture. Draw back, as with fear or pain. Reduce in size, reduce physically. Become smaller or draw together. Slouch. An incompetent person, usually used in negative constructions. As stooping carriage in standing and walking. Assume a drooping posture or carriage. Walk slovenly. Sordid. Morally degraded. Unethical or dishonest. Foul and run down and repulsive. Meanly avaricious and mercenary. Sprain. A painful injury to a joint caused by a sudden wrenching of its ligaments. Twist suddenly so as to sprain. Stolid. Having or revealing little emotion or sensibility, not easily aroused or excited. Subdue. Put down by force or intimidation. Bring under control by force or authority. Hold within limits and control. Get on top of, deal with successfully. Tawdry. Tastelessly showy. Made of inferior workmanship and materials. Tweedy. Preppy. Wearing tweed clothing. Made of tweed, or having a similar rough texture. Twinge. A sudden sharp feeling. A sharp stab of pain. Cause a stinging pain. Feel a sudden sharp, local pain. Typhus. Rickettsial disease transmitted by body lice, and characterized by skin rash and high fever. One of several similar diseases, characterized by high recurrent fever, caused by Rickettsia bacteria, not to be confused with typhoid fever. Tyrant. A cruel and oppressive dictator. In ancient Greece, a ruler who had seized power without legal right to it. Any person who exercises power in a cruel way. Vulgar. Lacking refinement or cultivation or taste. Of or associated with the great masses of people. Being or characteristic of or appropriate to everyday language. Conspicuously and tastelessly indecent. Abolish. Formally put an end to a system, practice, or institution. Accuser. A person who claims that someone has committed an offense, or done something wrong. Acidity. The bitterness or sharpness of a person's remarks or tone. The level of acid in substances such as water, soil, or wine. Angelic. Marked by utter benignity, resembling or befitting an angel or saint. Having a sweet nature befitting an angel or cherub. Belonging to, or proceeding from, angels, resembling, characteristic of, or partaking of the nature of, an angel. Arduous. Characterized by effort to the point of exhaustion, especially physical effort. Taxing to the utmost, testing powers of endurance. Difficult to accomplish, demanding considerable mental effort and skill. Astride. With one leg on each side. With the legs stretched far apart. Begesis. Used for emphasis, similar to crab, shit or wits. Boorish. Ill-mannered and coarse and contemptible in behavior or appearance. Brigade. Army unit smaller than a division. Form or unite into a brigade. Callous. Make insensitive or callous, dead in feelings or morals. Emotionally hardened. Having calluses, having skin made tough and thick through wear. Carcass. The dead body of an animal, especially one slaughtered and dressed for food. Cavalry. Troops trained to fight on horseback. A highly mobile army unit. Coexist. coexist peacefully, as if nations exist together. Conceit. Feelings of excessive pride. An elaborate poetic image or a far-fetched comparison of very dissimilar things. A witty or ingenious turn of phrase. An artistic device or effect. Conjure. Summon into action, or bring into existence, often as if by magic. Ask for or request earnestly. Engage in plotting, or enter into a conspiracy, swear together. To perform magic tricks. Convene. Meet formally. Call together. Cutlery. A cutting implement, a tool for cutting. Tableware implements for cutting and eating food. Defiler. A person or organization that causes pollution of the environment. Exigent. Demanding attention. Requiring precise accuracy. Demanding, requiring great effort. Urgent, pressing, needing immediate action. Fascist. A political system headed by a dictator in which the government controls business and labor and opposition is not permitted. A way of organizing a society in which a government ruled by a dictator controls the lives of the people and in which people are not allowed to disagree with the government. Unfairly oppressive or needlessly strict. Fatuous. Extremely silly or stupid. Obnoxiously stupid, vacantly silly, content in one's foolishness. Fervent. Characterized by intense emotion. Hot, burning, or glowing. Exhibiting particular enthusiasm, zeal, conviction, persistence, or belief. Having or displaying a passionate intensity. Flounce. A strip of pleated material, used as a decoration or a trim. The act of walking with exaggerated jerky motions. Walk emphatically. Foibles. A behavioral attribute that is distinctive and peculiar to an individual. The weaker part of a sword's blade from the forte to the tip. Forbade. Command against. Keep from happening or arising, make impossible. Forlorn. Marked by or showing hopelessness. Ghettos. Formerly the restricted quarter of many European cities in which Jews were required to live. Any segregated mode of living or working that results from bias or stereotyping. A poor densely populated city district occupied by a minority ethnic group linked together by economic hardship and social restrictions. Hastily. In a hurried or hasty manner. Heinous. Extremely wicked, deeply criminal. Lechery. Unrestrained indulgence in sexual activity. Mockery. Showing your contempt by derision. A composition that imitates or misrepresents somebody's style, usually in a humorous way. Humorous or satirical mimicry. Pasture. A field covered with grass or herbage, and suitable for grazing by livestock. Bulky food like grass or hay for browsing or grazing horses or cattle. Let feed in a field or pasture or meadow. Feed as in a meadow or pasture. Peevish. Easily irritated or annoyed. Penance. Remorse for your past conduct. A Catholic sacrament, repentance and confession and atonement and absolution. Voluntary self-punishment, in order to atone for some wrongdoing. Pieties. Righteousness by virtue of being pious. Plumage. The light horny waterproof structure forming the external covering of birds. Precept. Rule of personal conduct. A doctrine that is taught. Quintal. A unit of weight equal to 100 kilograms. A United States unit of weight equivalent to 100 pounds. Rarebit. Cheese melted with ale or beer served over toast. Rotunda. A building having a circular plan and a dome. A large circular room. Shudder. A moment of almost pleasurable fear, a frisson. A shivering tremor, often from fear or horror. To shake nervously, often from fear or horror. To vibrate jerkily. Sojourn. A short stay somewhere. A temporary residence. To reside somewhere temporarily, especially as a guest or lodger. Tartar. Chopped fine and served raw. Trample. The sound of heavy treading or stomping. Tread or stomp heavily or roughly. Injure by trampling, or as if by trampling. Walk on and flatten. Umpteen. Innumerable but many. Varmint. An irritating or obnoxious person. Any usually predatory wild animal considered undesirable, e.g., coyote. Viceroy. Governor of a country or province who rules as the representative of his or her king or sovereign. Showy American butterfly resembling the monarch but smaller. Adjutant. An officer who acts as military assistant to a more senior officer. Large Indian stork with a military gait. Assistant, who helps a higher-ranking officer. A lower-ranking officer who assists a higher-ranking officer with administrative affairs. Adultery. Extramarital sex that willfully and maliciously interferes with marriage relations. Anarchic. Without law or control. Audacity. Fearless daring. Aggressive boldness or unmitigated effrontery. Barnacle. Marine crustaceans with feathery food-catching appendages, free swimming as larvae, as adults form a hard shell and live attached to submerged surfaces. European goose smaller than the brant, breeds in the far north. Bludgeon. A short, heavy club, often of wood, which is thicker, or loaded at one end. To core someone, as if with a bludgeon. To strike or hit with something hard, usually on the head, to club. Brougham. Light carriage, pulled by a single horse. A sedan that has no roof over the driver's seat. Burglary. Entering a building unlawfully with intent to commit a felony, or to steal valuable property. Buzzards. A New World vulture that is common in South America and Central America and the southern United States. The common European short-winged hawk. Calamity. An event resulting in great loss and misfortune. Chancery. A court with jurisdiction in equity. An office of archives for public or ecclesiastic records, a court of public records. Clemency. Good weather with comfortable temperatures. Leniency and compassion shown toward offenders by a person or agency charged with administering justice. A pardon, commutation, or similar reduction, removal, or postponement of legal penalties by an executive officer of a state. Mildness of weather. Conceive. Have the idea for. Judge or regard, look upon, judge. Become pregnant, undergo conception. Crescent. Any shape resembling the curved shape of the moon in its first or last quarters. Resembling the new moon in shape. Defiance. Intentionally contemptuous behavior or attitude. A hostile challenge. A defiant act. Desolate. Leave someone who needs, or counts on you, leave in the lurch. Reduce in population. Cause extensive destruction or ruin utterly. Providing no shelter or sustenance. Dreadful. Causing fear or dread or terror. Exceptionally bad or displeasing. Extremely disagreeable and unpleasant. Ecstatic. Feeling great rapture or delight. Emigrate. Leave one's country of residence for a new one. Eminence. High status importance owing to marked superiority. A protuberance on a bone especially for attachment of a muscle or ligament. Excavate. Recover through digging. Find by digging in the ground. Form by hollowing. Remove the inner part or the core of. Flagrant. Conspicuously and outrageously bad or reprehensible. Homespun. A roughly woven fabric originally made with yarn that was spun at home. Of textiles, having a rough surface. Characteristic of country life. Made of cloth spun or woven in the home. Hysteria. State of violent mental agitation. Excessive or uncontrollable fear. Neurotic disorder characterized by violent emotional outbreaks and disturbances of sensory and motor functions. Impurity. Worthless or dangerous material that should be removed. The condition of being impure. Indecent. Not in keeping with accepted standards of what is right or proper in polite society. Offensive to good taste especially in sexual matters. Offending against sexual mores in conduct or appearance. Iniquity. Morally objectionable behavior. An unjust act. An act of great injustice or unfairness, a sinful or wicked act, an unconscionable deed. Deviation from what is right, gross injustice, sin, wickedness. Lordship. A title used to address any British peer except a duke, and extended to a bishop or a judge. The authority of a lord. Nativist. A philosopher who subscribes to nativism. Advocating the perpetuation of native societies. Of or relating to or advocating nativism. Negation. A negative statement, a statement that is a refusal or denial of some other statement. The absence or opposite of something actual or positive. The contradiction or denial of something. Pedestal. The base or support on which a statue, obelisk, or column is mounted. Used in reference to a situation in which someone is greatly or uncritically admired. Platonic. Of or relating to or characteristic of Plato or his philosophy. Intimate and affectionate but not sexual. Prophecy. Predict or reveal through, or as if through, divine inspiration. Deliver a sermon. Radiance. The amount of electromagnetic radiation leaving or arriving at a point on a surface. The quality of being bright and sending out rays of light. An attractive combination of good health and happiness. Ravenous. Extremely hungry. Devouring or craving food in great quantities. Reprisal. A retaliatory action against an enemy in wartime. Sanctity. Something considered sacred. Holiness of life or disposition, saintliness. The condition of being considered sacred, inviolability. Sedition. An illegal action inciting resistance to lawful authority and tending to cause the disruption or overthrow of the government. Shrapnel. Shell containing lead pellets that explodes in flight. Snobbery. The trait of condescending to those of lower social status. Solemnly. In a grave and sedate manner. Solitary. Confinement of a prisoner in isolation from other prisoners. One who lives in solitude. Characterized by or preferring solitude. Of plants and animals, not growing or living in groups or colonies. Stallion. Uncastrated adult male horse. A male horse kept primarily as a stud. A very virile and sexually inclined man, or rarely, woman. Suburbia. A residential district located on the outskirts of a city. Suburbanites considered as a cultural class or subculture. Symbolic. Involving the use of symbols or symbolism. Serving as a visible symbol for something abstract. Terminus. A place where something ends or is complete. The ultimate goal for which something is done. A final point in space or time, an end or extremity. The end of a railroad or other transportation route, or a station at such a point, a terminal. Teutonic. Of or pertaining to the ancient Teutons or their languages. Travesty. A comedy characterized by broad satire and improbable situations. A composition that imitates or misrepresents somebody's style, usually in a humorous way. Make a travesty of. A false, absurd, or distorted representation of something. Unionist. A worker who belongs to a trade union. Usurping. Seize and take control without authority and possibly with force, take as one's right or possession. Take the place of. Violator. Someone who violates the law. Someone who assaults others sexually. Witchery. The art of sorcery. Admiralty. The court which has jurisdiction of maritime questions and defenses. The system of jurisprudence of Admiralty courts. The building in which the Lords of the Admiralty, in England, transact business. The department or officers having authority over naval affairs generally. Anchorage. The condition of being secured to a base. A fee for anchoring. A city in south-central Alaska. Place for vessels to anchor. Animosity. A feeling of ill will arousing active hostility. Archivist. A person in charge of collecting and cataloging archives. One who is in charge of, or performs the task of creating, collecting, cataloging, and organizing archives. Audacious. Invulnerable to fear or intimidation. Unrestrained by convention or propriety. Disposed to venture or take risks. Bourgeois. Of or characteristic of the middle class, typically with reference to its perceived materialistic values or conventional attitudes. Burlesque. An absurd or comically exaggerated imitation of something, especially in a literary or dramatic work, a parody. A variety adult entertainment show, usually including titillations such as striptease. Carnivore. A terrestrial or aquatic flesh-eating mammal. Any animal that feeds on flesh. Celestial. Belonging or relating to heaven. Relating to the sky or outer space, regarded as the realm of the sun, moon, planets, and stars. Clergyman. A member of the clergy and a spiritual leader of the Christian Church. Congenial. Friendly or sociable. Having the same, or very similar nature, personality, tastes, habits, or interests. Suitable to one's needs. Conjuring. Calling up a spirit or devil. summon into action, or bring into existence, often as if by magic. Ask for or request earnestly. Engage in plotting, or enter into a conspiracy, swear together. Conundrum. A difficult problem. Cowardice. The trait of lacking courage. Decadence. The state of being degenerate in mental or moral qualities. Defection. An act or incidence of defecting. Derailing. Cause to run off the tracks. Run off or leave the rails. The act by which something is derailed. Present participle of derail. Dyspepsia. A disorder of digestive function characterized by discomfort or heartburn or nausea. Eloquence. Powerful and effective language. Endeavor. Earnest and industrious effort, especially when sustained over a period of time. Britain's standard spelling of endeavor. An attempt to achieve a goal. Try hard to do or achieve something. Frivolous. Not serious in content, or attitude or behavior. Of little weight or importance, not worth notice, slight. Silly, especially at an inappropriate time, or in an inappropriate manner. Gallantry. Courageous behavior, especially in battle. Polite attention or respect given by men to women. Gentility. Elegance by virtue of fineness of manner and expression. Guarantor. One who provides a warrant or guarantee to another. Hindrance. Something immaterial that interferes with or delays action or progress. Any obstruction that impedes or is burdensome. The act of hindering or obstructing or impeding. Something which hinders, something that holds back or causes problems with something else. Impudence. An impudent statement. The trait of being rude and impertinent, inclined to take liberties. Impudent language, conduct or behavior. The quality of being impudent, not showing due respect. Insinuate. To ingratiate, to obtain access to or introduce something by subtle, cunning or artful means. To creep, wind, or flow into, to enter gently, slowly, or imperceptibly, as into crevices. To hint, to suggest tacitly, usually something bad, while avoiding a direct statement. Insurgent. Of water, surging or rushing in. Rebellious, opposing authority. A rebel or revolutionary. Intrusion. Any entry into an area not previously occupied. Entrance by force, or without permission or welcome. The forcing of molten rock into fissures, or between strata of an earlier rock formation. Rock produced by an intrusive process. Intuition. A perceptive insight gained by the use of this faculty. Immediate cognition without the use of conscious rational processes. Matrimony. The ceremony of marriage. A particular solid or card game using 2 decks of cards. Marriage, the state of being married. Penitence. Remorse for your past conduct. Perchance. Through chance. By some chance, perhaps. Perdition. A state of eternal punishment and damnation into which a sinful and unpenitent person passes after death. Absolute ruin. Eternal damnation. Rapacious. Living by preying on other animals, especially by catching living prey. Excessively greedy and grasping. Devouring or craving food in great quantities. Repudiate. Cast off. Refuse to acknowledge, ratify, or recognize as valid. Refuse to recognize or pay. Reject as untrue, unfounded, or unjust. Seditious. Arousing to action or rebellion. In opposition to a civil authority or government. Servitude. State of subjection to an owner, or master, or forced labor imposed as punishment. Sodomized. Copulate with an animal. Practice anal sex upon. Solemnity. A trait of dignified seriousness. A solemn and dignified feeling. Tenderize. Make meat more tender by beating or slow cooking. Abominable. Unequivocally detestable. Exceptionally bad or displeasing. Abominably. In an offensive and hateful manner. In a terrible manner. Abstemious. Sparing in consumption of especially food and drink. Marked by temperance and indulgence. Abstention. An instance of declining to vote for or against a proposal or motion. The fact or practice of restraining oneself from indulging in something, abstinence. Abstractly. In a general way, not based on particular examples. Affidavits. Written declaration made under oath, a written statement sworn to be true, before someone legally authorized to administer an oath. Affliction. A state of great suffering and distress due to adversity. A condition of suffering, or distress due to ill health. A state of pain, suffering, distress, or agony. Allegiance. Loyalty to some cause, nation, or ruler. Antichrist. A personal opponent of Christ expected to appear before the end of the world. One who works against the teachings of Christ. Apoplectic. Pertaining to or characteristic of apoplexy. Arithmetic. The branch of pure mathematics dealing with the theory of numerical calculations. Relating to or involving arithmetic. Articulate. Provide with a joint. Put into words or an expression. Speak, pronounce, or utter in a certain way. Unite by forming a joint or joints. Ascendancy. The state that exists when one person or group has power over another. A quantitative attribute of an ecosystem, defined as a function of the ecosystem's trophic network, and intended to indicate its ability to prevail against disturbance by virtue of its combined organization and size. Supremacy, dominant control, the quality of being in the ascendant. Atrocities. The quality of being shockingly cruel and inhumane. An act of atrocious cruelty. Bamboozled. Conceal one's true motives from especially by elaborately feigning good intentions so as to gain an end. Bipartisan. Supported by both sides. Relating to, or supported by two groups, especially by two political parties. Compulsive. A person with a compulsive disposition, someone who feels compelled to do certain things. Caused by or suggestive of psychological compulsion. Strongly motivated to succeed. Having power to compel, exercising or applying compulsion. Conception. An abstract or general idea inferred or derived from specific instances. The act of becoming pregnant, fertilization of an ovum by a spermatozoon. The event that occurred at the beginning of something. The creation of something in the mind. Confiscate. Take temporary possession of as a security, by legal authority. Surrendered as a penalty. Confiscated, seized, and appropriated by the government for public use, forfeit. To use one's authority, to lay claim to and separate a possession from its holder. Connivance. Agreement on a secret plot. Conspiracy. A conspiracy theory, a hypothesis alleging conspiracy. An agreement between two or more persons to break the law at some time in the future. A situation in which different phonological or grammatical rules lead to similar or related outcomes. A group of lemurs. Conundrums. A difficult problem. Covenanted. Agree by lease, deed, or other legal contract. Enter into a covenant or formal agreement. Critically. In a critical manner. At a crisis or critical time, in a situation, place, or condition of decisive consequence. In a critical manner, with, or in terms of, criticism. Debauchery. A wild gathering involving excessive drinking and promiscuity. Decimation. The killing or destruction of any large portion of a population. The killing or punishment of every 10th person, usually by lot. Defecating. Have a bowel movement. Economical. Using the minimum of time or resources necessary for effectiveness. Of or relating to an economy, the system of production and management of material wealth. Avoiding waste. Relating to economy in any other sense. Effrontery. An act of insolent and shameless audacity. Insolent and shameless audacity. Emancipate. Give equal rights to, of women and minorities. Free from slavery or servitude. Emendation. A correction by amending, a correction resulting from critical editing. Energizing. Raised to a higher energy level. Cause to be alert and energetic. Supplying motor force. Entombment. The ritual placing of a corpse in a grave. Evangelist. A person who seeks to convert others to the Christian faith, especially by public preaching. A layperson engaged in Christian missionary work. A writer of a gospel, especially the 4 New Testament Gospels Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, usually evangelist. A zealous advocate of something. Exonerated. Pronounced not guilty of criminal charges. Freed from any question of guilt. Fanaticism. Excessive intolerance of opposing views. Handsomest. Pleasing in appearance especially by reason of conformity to ideals of form and proportion. Given or giving freely. Harmonious. Musically pleasing. Exhibiting equivalence or correspondence among constituents of an entity, or between different entities. Suitable and fitting. Existing together in harmony. Hysterical. Characterized by or arising from psychoneurotic hysteria. Marked by excessive or uncontrollable emotion. Having, or prone to having hysterics. Of, or arising from hysteria. Immigrated. Migrate to a new environment. Introduce or send as immigrants. Come into a new country and change residency. Immorality. The quality of not being in accord with standards of right or good conduct. Morally objectionable behavior. An immoral act or practice. The state or quality of being immoral, vice. Impalement. The act of piercing with a sharpened stake as a form of punishment or torture. Incoherent. Without logical or meaningful connection. Expressed in an incomprehensible or confusing way, unclear. Unable to express yourself clearly or fluently. indelicate, in violation of good taste, even verging on the indecent, lacking propriety and good taste in manners and conduct, verging on the indecent. Inducement, a positive motivational influence, act of bringing about a desired result. Indulgence, an inability to resist the gratification of whims and desires, a disposition to yield to the wishes of someone, the act of indulging or gratifying a desire. Foolish or senseless behavior. Infatuated, arouse unreasoning love or passion in, and cause to behave in an irrational way. Marked by foolish or unreasoning fondness. Insolvency, the condition of being insolvent, the state or condition of a person who is insolvent, the condition of one who is unable to pay his debts as they fall due, or in the usual course of trade and business. Insufficiency to discharge all debts of the owner, the condition of having more debts than assets. Invariably, without variation or change, in every case. Inveterate, having a particular habit, activity, or interest that is long established and unlikely to change. Long established and unlikely to change. Liberality, an inclination to favor progress and individual freedom. The trait of being generous in behavior and temperament. Mercantile, of or relating to the economic system of mercantilism. Profit-oriented, relating to or characteristic of trade or traders. Nincompoop, a stupid foolish person. Periodical, a publication that appears at fixed intervals, happening or recurring at regular intervals. Primitives, a person who belongs to an early stage of civilization. A mathematical expression from which another expression is derived. A word serving as the basis for inflected or derived forms. Prodigious, so great in size or force or extent as to elicit awe. Of momentous or ominous significance, far beyond what is usual in magnitude or degree. Ominous, portentous. Prosperous, in fortunate circumstances financially, moderately rich. Very lively and profitable. Marked by peace and prosperity. Presaging or likely to bring good luck or a good outcome. Punctually, at the expected or proper time. Puritanism, strict and austere religious conduct. Extreme strictness regarding moral scruples. Readmitted, admit someone to a place or organization again. Recommence, cause to start anew. Begin or cause to begin again. Rhetorical, not earnest, or presented only for the purpose of an argument. Part of or similar to rhetoric, the use of language as a means to persuade. Rheumatism, any disorder of the muscles, tendons, joints, bones, nerves, characterized by pain, discomfort and disability. Atrophic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. Scandalous, giving offense to moral sensibilities and injurious to reputation. Malicious, defamatory. Outrageous, exceeding reasonable limits. Wrong, immoral, causing a scandal. Soothsayer, one who tells the truth, a truthful person. A mantis or reorse, one who predicts the future, using magic, intuition, or intelligence, a diviner. Spoilsport, someone who spoils the pleasure of others. Thrombosis, the formation of thrombi in the blood vessels of a living organism, causing obstruction of the circulation. victorious, having won, experiencing triumph, being the winner in a contest, struggle, war, etc. or expressing a sense of victory or triumph. Vindicates, show to be right by providing justification or proof. Maintain, uphold, or defend. Clear of accusation, blame, suspicion, or doubt with supporting proof. Abomination, a person who is loathsome or disgusting. Hate coupled with disgust. An action that is vicious or vile, an action that arouses disgust or abhorrence. An abominable act, a disgusting vice, a despicable habit. Acrimonious, marked by strong resentment or cynicism. Belligerent, aggressively hostile, eager to fight. Acting violently towards others. Eager to go to war, warlike. Benediction, the act of praying for divine protection. A ceremonial prayer invoking divine protection. Bombardment, the incidence of an intense stream of high-energy particles directed at a substance. Heavy artillery fire, the act of bombing, especially towns or cities. Cannibalism, the practice of eating the flesh of your own kind. Clairvoyant, someone who has the power of clairvoyance, perceiving things beyond the natural range of the senses. Foreseeing the future, able to see things that cannot be perceived by the normal senses. Confederacy, the Southern states that seceded from the United States in 1861. A union of political organizations. A group of conspirators banded together to achieve some harmful or illegal purpose. A secret agreement between two or more people to perform an unlawful act. Confinement, lying in, time of giving birth. The act of confining, or the state of being confined of a space, restricted in area or volume, cramped. Lockdown. Criminality, the state of being a criminal. A criminal act. Criminal activity, the state of being criminal. Demoralized, corrupt morally or by intemperance or sensuality. Lower someone's spirits, make downhearted. Made less hopeful or enthusiastic. Disputation, a rhetorical exercise in which parties reason in opposition to each other on some question proposed. The act of disputing, a dispute or argument. Egotistical, characteristic of those having an inflated idea of their own importance. Characteristic of false pride, having an exaggerated sense of self-importance. Believing oneself to be better and more important than others. Tending to talk excessively about oneself. Enfranchise, grant freedom to, as from slavery or servitude. Grant voting rights. Enumerators, someone who collects census data by visiting individual homes. Fantastical, existing in fancy only. Ludicrously odd. Fornication, voluntary sexual intercourse between persons not married to each other. Extramarital sex that willfully and maliciously interferes with marriage relations. Sexual intercourse in general, sex. Sexual intercourse by people who are not married to each other, or which is considered illicit in another way. Godforsaken, located in a dismal or remote area, desolate. Abandoned by a deity or god. Particularly awful, very bad. Guesstimate, an estimate that combines reasoning with guessing. Estimate based on a calculation. Ignominious, marked by great dishonor, shame, disgrace or humiliation, shameful, disgraceful. Impermeable. Preventing especially liquids to pass or diffuse through. Indignation. A feeling of righteous anger. A self-righteous anger or disgust. An anger aroused by something, perceived as an indignity, notably an offense or injustice. Indulgences. An inability to resist the gratification of whims and desires. A disposition to yield to the wishes of someone. The act of indulging or gratifying a desire. Foolish or senseless behavior. Inestimable. Beyond calculation or measure. Infinitives. The uninflected form of the verb. Inquisitive. Showing curiosity. Inquiring or appearing to inquire. Curious or inquiring. Unduly curious about the affairs of others, prying. Inscrutable. Of an obscure nature. Insinuation. An unpleasant hint or suggestion of something bad. Launderette. A money laundering operation. A place that has facilities for washing and drying clothes that the public may pay to use. Mantelpiece. Shelf that projects from wall above fireplace. A shelf that is affixed to the wall above a fireplace. Medievalism. The study of the Middle Ages. A custom or belief from the Middle Ages. The state of being medieval. Monstrously. In a hideous manner. In a terribly evil manner. In a grotesque manner. Obstructive. Preventing movement. Parasitical. Relating to or caused by parasites. Of plants or persons, having the nature or habits of a parasite or leech, living off another. Persecutors. Someone who torments. Prerogative. Characterized by lawless state actions refers to the prerogative state. Having hereditary or official right or privilege. A hereditary or official right or privilege. A property, attribute or ability which gives one a superiority or advantage over others, an inherent advantage or privilege, a talent. Prophesying. Predict or reveal through, or as if through, divine inspiration. Deliver a sermon. Puritanical. Of or relating to Puritans or Puritanism. Exaggeratedly proper. Morally rigorous and strict. Reactionary. An extreme conservative, an opponent of progress or liberalism. Opposed to political or social liberalism or reform. Recognition. Acknowledgement of something's existence, validity, or legality. Identification of someone or something or person from previous encounters or knowledge. Renaissance. The period of European history at the close of the Middle Ages, and the rise of the modern world, a cultural rebirth from the 14th through the middle of the 17th centuries. The revival of learning and culture. Scrumptious. Extremely pleasing to the sense of taste. Delicious, delectable. Picky, fastidious. Suppository. A small plug of medication designed for insertion into the rectum or vagina where it melts. Tempestuous. Of, or resembling, a tempest, stormy, tumultuous. Treacherous. Dangerously unstable and unpredictable. Tending to betray, especially having a treacherous character as attributed to the Carthaginians by the Romans. Deceitful, inclined to betray. Exhibiting treachery. Trespassers. Someone who intrudes on the privacy or property of another without permission. Tribulation. An annoying or frustrating or catastrophic event. Abolitionist. A reformer who favors abolishing slavery. Astonishment. The feeling that accompanies something extremely surprising. Capitulating. Surrender under agreed conditions. Civilization. The act of rendering a criminal process civil. Human society, particularly civil society. An organized culture encompassing many communities, often on the scale of a nation or a people, a stage or system of social, political, or technical development. The act or process of civilizing or becoming civilized. Coincidental. Occurring or operating at the same time. Commonwealth. The well-being of a community. Republic, often capitalized, as Commonwealth. The entirety of a secular, society, a polity, a state. Congregation. A group of people who adhere to a common faith, and habitually attend a given church. An assemblage of people or animals or things collected together. The act of congregating. A corporate body whose members gather for worship, or the members of such a body. Conscription. Compulsory military service. Conspirators. Members of a conspiracy, which is a group that agree to do an unlawful or unethical act. Constructive. Constructing or tending to construct or improve or promote development. Emphasizing what is laudable, or hopeful or to the good. Consummation. The completion of marriage by sexual intercourse. The act of bringing to completion or fruition. Deliberately. With intention, in an intentional manner. In a deliberate, unhurried manner. Intentionally, or after deliberation, not accidentally. Taking one's time, slowly and carefully. Deteriorated. Become worse or disintegrate. Grow worse. Discourteous. Showing no courtesy, rude. Lacking social graces. Diversionary. That serves as a diversion. Emancipation. Freeing someone from the control of another, especially a parent's relinquishing authority and control over a minor child. The act of setting free from the power of another, as from slavery, subjection, dependence, or controlling influence. The state of being thus set free, liberation. Enthusiastic. Having or showing great excitement and interest. Hieroglyphic. Difficult to decipher. Of, relating to, or written with a system of symbols. Undecipherable handwriting or secret symbol. A writing system of ancient Egypt, Minans, Mayu and other civilizations, using pictorial symbols to represent individual sounds as a rebus. Immeasurably. To an immeasurable degree, beyond measurement. Without bounds. Imprisonment. A confinement in a place, especially a prison or a jail, as punishment for a crime. Inaccessible. Capable of being reached only with great difficulty or not at all. Not capable of being obtained. Not able to be accessed, out of reach, inconvenient. Not able to be reached, unattainable. Inauguration. The act of starting a new operation or practice. The ceremonial induction into a position. The act of inaugurating, or inducting into office with solemnity, investiture by appropriate ceremonies. The formal beginning or initiation of any movement, enterprise, event, etc. Indefensible. Incapable of being explained. Incapable of being justified or excused. Not defensible, not capable of being defended. Indiscretion. The trait of being injudicious. A petty misdeed. A brief sexual liaison. An indiscreet or imprudent act, indiscreet behavior. Inextricable. Not permitting extrication, incapable of being disentangled or untied. Intermediary. A negotiator who acts as a link between parties. Interminable. Tiresomely long, seemingly without end. Intermission. The act of suspending activity temporarily. A time interval during which there is a temporary cessation of something. Intimidation. The act of intimidating a weaker person, to make them do something. The feeling of discouragement in the face of someone's superior fame or wealth or status, etc. The feeling of being intimidated, being made to feel afraid or timid. A communication that makes you afraid to try something. Irresistible. Impossible to resist, overpowering. Or resistless. Overpoweringly attractive. Compellingly attractive. Jurisdiction. In law, the territory within which power can be exercised. The authority of a sovereign power to govern or legislate. The limits or territory within which authority may be exercised. The power or right to exercise authority. Non-sectarian. Not restricted to one sector, school, or party. Pestilential. Likely to spread and cause an epidemic disease. Philanthropy. Voluntary promotion of human welfare. Preparedness. Precautionary measures in the face of potential disasters. The state of being prepared. Proclamation. A formal public statement. The formal act of proclaiming, giving public notice. Ratification. Making something valid by formally ratifying or confirming it. Redecoration. A replacement decoration. The act of redecorating. Resurrection. Body snatching. The act of arising from the dead, and becoming alive again. Scrupulously. With extreme conscientiousness. Spiritualism. A system of belief or religious practice based on supposed communication with the spirits of the dead, especially through mediums. A doctrine, opposing materialism, that claims transcendency of the divine being, the altogether spiritual character of reality, and the value of inwardness of consciousness. Terrifically. In a terrific or extreme way. Transfigured. Elevate or idealize, in allusion to Christ's transfiguration. Change completely the nature or appearance of. Tuberculosis. An infectious disease of humans and animals caused by a species of Mycobacterium, usually Mycobacterium tuberculosis, mainly infecting the lungs, where it causes tubercles characterized by the expectoration of mucus in sputum, fever, weight loss, and chest pain, and transmitted through inhalation or ingestion of bacteria. Anti-terrorist. Preventing or counteracting terrorism, or reducing the threat from terrorism. One who opposes terrorism. Conflagration. A very intense and uncontrolled fire. Corroborating. Establish or strengthen, as with new evidence or facts. Give evidence for. Support with evidence or authority or make more certain or confirm. Excommunicate. Exclude from a church or a religious community. Oust or exclude from a group or membership by decree. Hallucinating. Perceive what is not there, have illusions. Experiencing delirium. Ignominiously. In a dishonorable manner, or to a dishonorable degree. Imperceptible. Not perceptible, not detectable, too small in magnitude to be observed. Inexhaustible. That cannot be entirely consumed or used up. Incapable of being entirely consumed or used up. Impossible to exhaust, unlimited. Inexpressibly. To an inexpressible degree. Insubordinate. Not submissive to authority. Disposed to or engaged in defiance of established authority. Intermarriage. Marriage to a person belonging to a tribe or group other than your own is required by custom or law. Marriage within one's own tribe or group is required by custom or law. Maliciousness. Feeling a need to see others suffer. Outmaneuvered. Defeat by more skillful maneuvering. Predominantly. Much greater in number or influence. Prosecutorial. Relating to prosecuting of criminal cases, prosecutorial misconduct can lead to the lawyer's disbarment. Protestations. A formal and solemn declaration of objection. A strong declaration of protest. Revolutionary. A radical supporter of political or social revolution. Markedly new or introducing radical change. Of or relating to or characteristic, or causing an axial or orbital turn. Relating to or having the nature of a revolution. Sophisticated. Make less natural or innocent. Practice sophistry, change the meaning of, or be vague about in order to mislead or deceive. Alter and make impure, as with the intention to deceive. Make more complex or refined. Strangulation. The action or state of strangling or being strangled. A condition in which the blood supply to a part of the body, typically a hernia, is reduced or cut off as a result of compression of blood vessels. Surreptitious. Marked by quiet and caution and secrecy, taking pains to avoid being observed. Conducted with or marked by hidden aims or methods. Stealthy, furtive, well hidden, covert especially movements. Thenceforward. From then on, from that time on. Uninhabitable. Not fit for habitation. Circumnavigate. Travel around, either by plane or ship. Constitutional. A regular walk taken as a form of exercise. Of benefit to or intended to benefit your physical makeup. Sanctioned by or consistent with or operating under the law determining the fundamental political principles of a government. Existing as an essential constituent or characteristic. Knickerbockers. Men's or boys' baggy knee breeches, of a type particularly popular in the early 20th century. Metaphorically. In a metaphorical manner. Non-cooperation. The active absence of cooperation. Philosophizing. Speculate or theorize about fundamental or serious issues, especially in a tedious or pompous way. Explain or argue a point or idea, in terms of one's philosophical theories. Principalities. Territory ruled by a prince. Rehabilitation. The restoration of someone to a useful place in society. The conversion of wasteland into land suitable for use of habitation or cultivation. Vindication of a person's character and the re-establishment of that person's reputation. The treatment of physical disabilities by massage and electrotherapy and exercises. Traditionalism. A philosophical system which makes tradition the supreme criterion and rule of certitude, the doctrine that human reason is of itself radically unable to know with certainty any truth, or, at least, the fundamental truths of the metaphysical, moral, and religious order. The adherence to traditional views or practices, especially with regard to cultural or religious matters. The continuation of theological rituals on the basis that the ritual has always completed, rather than the ritual being a manifestation of theology. Enfranchisement. the conversion of a copyhold estate into a freehold estate, enfranchisement of copyhold, a release from slavery, the act of enfranchising, the investiture with any of several municipal privileges, insubordination, defiance of authority, an insubordinate act, the quality or state of being insubordinate, disobedience to lawful authority, specifically, an employee's failure or refusal to comply with a request or an assignment given by his or her supervisor. Misapprehension, an understanding of something that is not correct. Synchronization, the relation that exists when things occur at the same time. An adjustment that causes something to occur or recur in unison. Coordinating by causing to indicate the same time. Underprivileged, lacking the rights and advantages of other members of society. Circumnavigation, the act of circumnavigating or sailing round. Incomprehensible, incapable of being explained or accounted for. Difficult to understand. Impossible or very difficult to understand. Anything that is beyond understanding.